Hi guys, and welcome to our next video about SQL injection attack. This video is practical, and here I'm going to explain one of the most actually usable attacks and one of the most dangerous ones over the web apps. So basically, what's the SQL injection, how does it work, and what can we get from it. So basically, the SQL injection is working with databases with based SQL syntax, because there are many SQL databases. For example, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and so on, even SQLite. And basically, we say that in the theoretical view that the web app is constantly actually communicating with the MySQL server, and there are flying queries, information, changing records there, and so on. Every record change, every database change is done by query. So basically the SQL syntax are query based, and there are keywords like where from, so we can select information, or we can input information, we can change information. So basically using that options, that keywords, by defining input, we can actually manipulate the database. So SQL injection occurs when you give the user a chance to actually input something, but instead of inputting something that we actually make that tool to be used, he inputs some SQL queries, and therefore he starts to manipulate the database records. He can see tables, extract information, and so on. So now I'm going to show you how that's done in practice. Now here I have set up my bbox right here, using the bwap. Now just open a Firefox, and we need to navigate the buggy web app, which is extremely helpful actually. So here just navigate the IP address of our bbox machine right here. So basically 192.168.1.102. Now go to bwap, buggy web application, go for login debug, therefore choose your bug and go for SQL injection get search. Okay, so get search means that we are actually using the get method, and you saw that how we can identify and modify the methods in Burp Suite, but now we're not going to use that. And we have the search, so basically we have a search option here, and we have some kind of output structure like title, release, chapter, and so on. So basically let's type some movies like Iron Man. I'm not sure if it's indicative, so Iron Man. Okay, so now we have some Iron Man title, we have the release date, we have the character. Okay, we have the URL here, but we're gonna see that in a second. And now we need to see what happens when we actually search without typing any keyword. So we basically go for search, where we need to know how the application is working without before we actually hack it. So basically, when just click the search, all the available movies are actually popped up, so you can see all the available movies. Now basically, whenever we type here, what happens is basically the application sees our query, sees our request basically, and it makes a query to a database with that request that we have entered there. So for example, when you enter Iron Man, the web application is taking that string Iron Man, is taking a query to the database, collecting that string, and therefore the database analyzes the string, see if the string is available, and now put us as a get method. So basically, whenever we click search, the web app goes to the database, makes the query about the Iron Man, and then if everything's alright, it pops up. If you type any movie that do not exist, like Rambo, we would not get any movies, because the database, there are no such record in the database. So with this actually field, we can interact with the database. So now, instead of specifying some movies like the normal user should use that application, we can specify some SQL syntax, so whenever the query gets to a database, it gets executed and gets a special output from the database. So for example, without entering some movies, we can enter just one column, and we see now that we have error. You have an error in your SQL syntax. That means that the server, the MySQL server, is actually representing our character. So basically, we are interacting now with the database server. This is quite important. If you have such an error like this, that means that you can actually use SQL injections. Well, you can use that techniques in order to scan if any vulnerability is usable there. For example, if that error occurs, there we know we can actually use SQL injection. Because if the error just printed out no such movie or something like that, then the chances of this application be vulnerable to SQL injection is slightly reduced. But now when we type just one column and just get that output like error in SQL syntax, that means that the search box here is actually directly sending SQL requests, so we can directly interact with the database. So now let's go over the title right there, over the URL, and let's see what can we extract from there. So basically, let's go for one and order by. This is typical SQL syntax to order and structure SQL records there. Order by, and let's say 20, and then we put double minuses, space, and one minus, which means that everything after it is gonna be counted as a commentary, and this is something similar to line terminator. So basically, whenever that occurs, it's gonna terminate the SQL query to here. So basically, whenever I type enter, I get another SQL syntax. Okay, so now let's go over and see what can we modify. So I just needed to replace the sign. So 1, okay, ordered by 20. Now we see another error, that's unknown column 20 in order clause. So basically there now we need to actually enumerate how much records and how much tables and columns do we have, because the first thing is actually by typing 1, or actually 1 equal 1, we see no movies found. When we type, for example, just that symbol, or therefore or 1 equals 1, we see that the SQL, we can interact with the SQL server, but now it's time to actually use that interaction in order to manipulate the server and in order to extract information or to gain access and just so on. Now it's time to hack. This phase is basically identifying if the server is vulnerable to our SQL injection methods, and if it's now vulnerable, now it's time to actually start and digging around with the database, like seeing all the tables, seeing all the columns, seeing the records, seeing users, and the password. So basically, now it's time to modify that title parameter right here. Since we can now analyze the URL, we have the IP address, we have /bwap, which is the folder. Therefore, we have SQL injection 1 PHP, and we have the title right here. So basically, we are inputting that title, and that title parameter is the one responsible for the connection with the database. So basically, we can go for title and specify order by 20, specify the terminator here, and click enter. Now unknown column 20. Okay, now go for 1 and let's see what can we get, and we get no movies found. So basically, now we have actually found that we have a running table on order by 1. Okay, so we have one table here, and let's go and continue that cycle. Let's say 2, no movie were found. Amazing. 3, 4, 7, 9. Okay, so we have now unknown column 9. So basically, there are not 9 tables; there are less than 9. Let's go for 8. Iterate, and then go for 7. Okay, so we have basically 7 columns, and it's good to actually keep notes of that anytime you actually hack something. So let's go and type 7 tables. Okay. Okay, now we identified the 7 tables. Now can we actually union them? And union is basically the SQL syntax, the SQL keyword for multiple select. And select basically means that we want to extract information, like print information out. I really recommend to go and see the MySQL documentations and MySQL functions in order to get a better understanding of what's going on. So basically, the select is a function that selects and outputs us the specified parameters, specified tables and records. And basically, union select is when we combine different tables. So basically, we're going to combine all 7 tables and see what can we extract from there. So let's go, instead of order by, go for keep the terminator here, go for union select and specify our table, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 with the commas and 7. Therefore click enter, keep the terminator, because if you actually delete the terminator, see what happens, we get an SQL error. So the server will need to know where to actually end the query. So put the terminator here, and we have 2 3 5 4. So basically these are vulnerable. So these are printed out, these are the IDs, and these are basically vulnerable. So we can use one of these tables in order to actually modify and extract different information. For example, if we go to table 2 here, right here, 2 is equal to that 2. So in basically here, if I type version, I get displayed with the version 5.04.96 Ubuntu, which is great. Now we've identified we have 7 tables. We've identified that 2, 3, 4, 5 are actually vulnerable. Now we are not sure where the others are used, like 1, 6, and 7. We are not sure where they are used, but we do not need them exactly, because we're gonna use the tables in order to get information and get records. So basically, union select, we can go for like instead of version, we are still selecting information, we're still outputting the information. Instead of version, now we want to type, for example, table name, and we need to specify from where we want to actually extract that information. So basically from information and underscore, and therefore we have to type schema and therefore dot tables. Okay, so now if everything is alright, if I click enter, the query is gonna actually understand my my syntax, and it's gonna bring us all the tables available. So click enter, and yeah, we have now all the tables. Keep in mind that some of these are generated, but there are real one like users, and we are interested most in users. Therefore we have cache, and we have basically all the tables. So the key thing here is to basically understand on the fundamental level what's happening below the ground. So here we have a search box. In that search box we can enter movies, we can enter strings, but if instead of strings or movies we enter some SQL queries, everything here is going to be executed, since that web application is vulnerable to that attack. So basically, whenever SQL syntax we are putting here, it's going to be executed, and it's going to bring us output, or is give input. So basically, you can identify if this web application is vulnerable by actually checking and throwing different parameters and see if you can get an error. And if you can, so we did, we can go and actually use SQL commands to get information or post information. And I highly recommend to go and see the manual or watch some videos about basic SQL commands or syntax. It's quite easy, it's more like typing in English. So here we have all the tables right there. We can go and specify all the columns as well. For example, column name, and here we need to specify columns, so columns. Therefore we have different values about accounts, but the problem here is that we are not sure from where these are coming. Basically these are all the common columns right there, but we are not sure from what table they are actually. So you see there are a lot, and we need now to structure the information more. So basically we need to actually go and specify the table, and therefore specify the column in that table. For example, we can go for like go back, see the tables right now. Let's go for users right there. So basically table name, where table name equals users. So basically now we know that we have we specified the users. Now we need to actually select anything from that users. So basically select column name. We need to specify the columns. Basically every table has columns inside, and combination of table makes a database. That's how the SQL is basically structured. So we have a column name, from information tables, we have table name user, so basically click enter, and now we have column name error. So columns, I need to specify here columns, so basically columns where is just another SQL keyword like the English one, where table name equals users. So by specifying that command, that query basically, we get a list of all the available columns about that table, like in users. These are all the variables columns, and now we can furthermore go and inspect what they actually consist, and we can go and further analyze the database. For example, here we can now select the ID and see all the IDs and therefore all the references for that ID. If we want to fully understand how the database is working, we can see the keys and just extract and analyze that information. But for now, we are mostly interested in login, password, email, and secret. So now basically to see the different fields, like we want to see the record stored in login, stored in password, we want to get that accounts. For example, we can actually delete all of that. And now here we need to specify login, because we want to inspect the login right here. So basically login. And therefore we want to go and say from users, because this is the correct table. Now we know the table, we know what record we want, and now we union select login from users. Okay, so click enter. Now we see we have two users, but keep in mind that you always want to keep others here, because as you can see we are union selecting. Union means like a literary union. We are uniting all the available records, all the available tables, and we are selecting everything from that tables. And basically we saw that 2, 3, 4, 5 are vulnerable, and we do not know when we are using 1, 6, and 7. And if you go for login on 1, I'm not sure that is going to work. So login and delete the second one, 2. You see, yeah, the 1 and the actual 6 and 7 are not directly used here, so we cannot get the output. So here we need to specify back 1. Now go for login and from users. Okay, so now we have login AI, and therefore we have B. Okay, so therefore we need to go back and see we have field password. So basically here we want to actually not see the column name, but see the password. So basically password. Therefore remove all that and specify from users, because now we know the exact table and the exact column. Okay, so click enter, and now we see the hash. So basically copy that, and now we can use any tool online to actually decipher that. So basically hash, we can use tools like hash identifier, put the hash right here. We see SHA-1. Okay, so SHA-1 decipher. Or we can go for decrypt. Now open that link. Just any link should do the work. Just paste your hash right there. Oh, sorry. Yeah. The code. Okay, so CFDOPE. Come on. Okay. Back into hash. Okay, go to another site. the database with this hash do not have that exact hash. So decrypt, and we have bug. Okay, so basically the password is B, and we have the hash bug. So this is how we can extract information from the MySQL databases using queries. We can actually go back and inspect every single field we want. For example, we have field like name, and we can use the other options here. And here, if we want, we can actually specify another record, another column. For example, pass or password. Sorry. So you see, we have the users and the password. So basically, we want to specify, manipulate tables, manipulate records however we want. So we can extract information, use that information, and potentially compromise the machine, compromise the database, and so on. So guys, this was today's video about SQL injection. In the future video, we're going to continue with more SQL injections and more vulnerabilities. I really hope you understood on fundamental level what was going on. I really recommend to go and watch some videos about SQL or read some documentation about the syntax, how it works. Like you can go and create some database, see how it's working, see how can you manipulate records over that database, so you can get used to it easier and better. And therefore, when you come here and watch that video, you'll get a better idea about what is going on. Keep in mind that all these vulnerabilities and attacks are actually hard to perform and hard to identify. So we need a lot of practice, a lot of experience in order to perform successful attacks. But for now, we are actually testing on BWAP here. Everything is actually vulnerable, and we need to know how the fundamentals of that attacks are. So I really appreciate you guys for watching, and see you in the next practical videos.